Okay, and we are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Nidhi Nakrani, the DevRel side from the Metis, and we are having Joseph Ortega from the Thirdweb Solution Engineer. So, we are here for the amazing workshop simplifying Web3 development in with the integration of Thirdweb on the Metis. So, how are you doing, Joseph?
Hey, Nidhi, great to be here. I am doing fantastic. I'm so excited to talk with you all today about Thirdweb and Metis, especially how to build on Metis. I'm pumped. Today is Friday, right? The weekend's coming, and I am so excited to be building with you all on this Friday.
Yep, amazing. So before we start, I think we should wait a few minutes more to let the people join. Meanwhile, we can share the live stream link for the support. So let me share it. We will be waiting for people for a few minutes, just a couple of minutes.
Sounds good. Hmm. I've been messing around with Metis for a while now, and I gotta say the gas fees are my
Yeah.
biggest draw to Metis. They are so cheap. It's so fun.
Yeah, true. Like I have been using like before when joining Metis, like we have been using like different chains, but yeah, the gas fees here.
very very easy and developer friendly here.
Yep. Mm, I think we can start or should we wait for one more minute? People
Up
are
to
just
you.
people are joining.
I am excited. The more people that join, the more people who learn about Metis. I'm so
Yep.
excited.
Medicine Third definitely.
Everyone
This
who's joined, be sure to share that link out. Okay, we want everyone to join and talk about Metis here.
yeah.
I'm wondering people who are watching right now. If you're in the live stream and
Just
you've
some comments, yeah.
yeah, put some comments. If you're watching in the live stream version of X where you can actually type out. Love to hear your thoughts. Have you heard of Metis? Have you what are you building in Web3? We want to hear a little bit about you. And in the meantime, I'm going to pour myself a cup of tea.
I think we are having enough people, like 180 around have already joined, so we can start maybe. So, welcome, everybody, once again, whoever watching from the community or the development side. We are having amazing workshop for you this today with the third web and the Metis integration. So, all right, like as I said, I'm the Nidhi Nakrani from the DevRel side from the Metis, and we are having Joseph from the Third Web as the solution designer. We are welcoming all of you and thank you so much for joining. So, all right, let's dive into like I'll be giving you the quick introduction of how Third Web makes a unique building for the Metis, and Joseph will be having like live demo session for you guys, as well as he will dive deep little bit into the how third web actually works and how it provides the value to the Metis platform. So let's dive into how Thirdweb makes building on a Metis like super seamless. Like if you have ever worked on a dApps before, you know that how tricky and time consuming it can be to set up your smart contracts and deploy them. So that's where Thirdweb comes in. Like it's like ultimate developer toolkit for Web3, and now it's fully integrated with Metis. So deploying a smart contract on Metis is as easy as with a few clicks. So you got pre-built customizable contracts for things like NFT tokens, marketplace, and more. And apart from this, there are a lot of more things that definitely Joseph going to dive deep into his next presentation. He's going to share presentation definitely, and have we are going to have the live demo session. So let's get started for the amazing workshop.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Cool. So Nidhi, am I good to take it over from here? Can I?
Sure, feel free to share your screen. And
Perfect, perfect. So yeah, as Nidhi said, I am Joe. I am from the Third Web Solutions team, and it is my job today to help you guys start building on the amazing chain that is Metis L2. It is an L2 layer, which means that the gas fees, if you were here a little bit earlier, are so low. This means that you guys can develop, transact, and interact with the blockchain with a small amount of Metis funds that you have. Your Metis token goes a lot further here on this chain, and with Thirdweb, it is even easier and faster to build out your application. So this can be anything from NFTs. You can do DeFi apps. Gaming apps is a very popular choice here at Thirdweb as well. We'll go over all of these possibilities and coverage for you. Let me share my screen with you here.
meanwhile, the community, whoever watching this live stream, please feel free to drop any comments for any question, whatever you are having in your mind. You can just drop your comments.
Absolutely. Cool. So again, I'm Joe. I'm here to talk about Thirdweb. And if you've heard of Thirdweb before and you're watching in the live stream, let us know. Just say, hey, I've heard of you. I love your stuff. I don't like your stuff. Tell us why, right? We appreciate all kinds of feedback. We are here for one thing and one thing only, and that is to provide a full stack open source Web3 development platform to anyone who is building in Web3, right? This means that when we talk about full stack, right? What does this mean? This means that as we think about developers and people building in Web3, what do they need? Well, they need things for users to connect to, right? We need wallets to connect to. We need to have a way to deploy contracts and define the rules that govern our businesses, our platforms that we're building out. And then we need some sort of backend to kind of help with all of this development and help scale things like transactions, scale things like gas management, NOTS management, gas sponsorship on behalf of users, all of this cool stuff, right? We need all of this. We need the whole package. And that's what Thirdweb provides. We provide structure for developers to have front end tooling, on chain tooling, and back end tooling for all of their Web3 development. And what does this look like? So, oops, 1 second here. There we go. Wrong slide. So what does this look like? Sorry about that. Front end, what does this mean when we talk about front end? Well, this is anything and everything that a user needs to help connect their audience. So this means things like wallet connectors. We have products like in-app wallets so that you can onboard native Web2 users. This means things like email logins, traditional socials like Gmail, Facebook, Apple, and we just recently added socials out of the box like Steam, right? So now you can, if you're building out gaming solutions, you can have users log into your game directly with their Steam account. Super easy and unfriendly. You don't have to have your users worry about things like making a wallet, securing private keys, securing seed phrases, all of that stuff. We abstract all of that difficulty away for you, and you guys can start onboarding your users with very simple social login wallets. Not only that, but we have things like contract SDKs to help you interact with your contracts and on-chain transactions. We have payment structures for fiat on-ramping and swaps that you guys can use as well, all through our front end. And one of the most amazing things that we've come out with, and in my opinion, is ecosystem wallets. So everyone here, I'm sure you're aware of EOAs like MetaMask, Coinbase, right? You're aware of all these kinds of external wallets. But with ecosystem wallets, we allow you the opportunity to become your own wallet provider, which is an amazing thing. So think about as we're building these apps, branding is super important. Branding is something that, it helps scale our applications, it helps scales our products that we're building, and it builds trust with the community, right? As an individual comes into your app, they see your icon, they see your logo, they see your color scheme, and it all translates into trust between the app owner, and the consumer. So, ecosystem wallets lets you build that branded ID, and traditionally wallets were scoped to the application, right? So if you were building many different applications, you would have different wallets for the user. But with ecosystem wallets, you can have a single wallet that goes across all the apps that you build, making it for a unified identity, unified brand identity, unified consumer identity. So now the user isn't worried about managing 10, 15 different wallets. They can have a single wallet and can access all of their assets between your applications. They can access all their tokens, all their NFTs, all within that same ecosystem wallet. Really, really cool stuff. So that's the front end. That's the piece that, hey, how do I connect users from their wallets to my app? That's a little bit about all the stuff we offer in the front end package. And so on chain, what does that mean? This means we need things like contracts, and we have pre built audited contracts. And we have also recently come out with modular contracts. Think of these as Lego pieces that you can use to build out your contracts. Sometimes, in our pre builts, you might say there's some certain functions or certain kind of actions that I don't need within these contracts, and you can take them out. We give you the opportunity and the ability to plug and play any of these contracts. You can customize any functions. You can a really popular use case is if you're creating an ERC20 token and you need that mintable function at first to mint that initial supply. But then when you go and you want to upload your contract to some of these scanning sites and you want to get rid of that minting function, right? You want to get rid of mintable. You can actually do that with modular contracts after you've deployed your contract. So super, super helpful functionality there. And you can deploy these contracts either through the dashboard or through our CLI. I know we have some people who are looking or coming over from Solana, and you're looking for an easy way to deploy contracts on Metis through Thirdweb. We'll go over through that as well today. Super simple UI, super simple dashboard UI that you guys can follow through. So it's going to be a really great piece of advice and kind of learnings here today. So be sure to stick around for that. And then we have something called engine, which is part of our backend, right? So backend has anything to do with if you want to do things like manage gasless transactions, right? Gas sponsorship is a huge thing in Web3 right now because it helps abstract away some of the complexities and brings down barriers to traditional Web3 transactions, right? So you can do that. We have a concept of back-end wallets, and these back-end wallets are things where you can fund these back-end wallets. Previously, you can have them transact on behalf of a user. You can do things like create relayers with a product called Engine. You can do contract subscriptions with a product called Engine. We'll go through all of that as well. And then finally, we have automated gas and nonce management for our back-end service. So this means that you can scale up the number and ability to retry transactions on your platform. So let's say you build out an application, you have hundreds of thousands of transactions going through, and one of them fails. Well, now traditionally it's on the user, right, to go through, manage their nonce, manage how much gas they want to send through, and it becomes a little bit of a pain. So with our backend, what we do is we automate all of that on behalf of the user for you. So if a transaction fails, guess what? The engine instance will automatically increase the nonce. It will automatically increase the gas and retry that transaction until it succeeds, right? And you can customize all these settings. You can customize how much you want gas sponsorship. You can customize on what contracts. You can customize certain limits. All of that is customizable for you on Thirdweb. Not only are we full stack, but we are also fully native with our some of our popular SDKs. This means that you're not wrapping anything around things like your TypeScript SDK or your React SDK or even Unreal and Unity SDKs, right? Because our SDKs are native, All your applications are going to run even faster. You're not popping up any windows to send users to a web browser. None of that stuff. It is all within your application. And as if you've built products before, if you've built websites or dApps, you know one of the keys to retention and building that audience is to keep them in your app as long as possible. So this is one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we are fully native. You guys don't have to open up web screens. You don't have to send your customers anywhere else. They can stay within your app and stay within your ecosystem. Cool. So I'm gonna go a little bit about some of these things, and I'm gonna share a link here in the chat to something called our playground. And this is where I suggest every single one of you, if you were new to Thirdweb, or if you're new here, uh, Needy, I'm actually gonna share it to you in our private chat, and then you can share it out as best you want. But this is something I urge everyone to go through and just play around. You don't need an account. You don't need to send any funds. You don't need any sort of barriers. This is free and available. You guys can click that link and start playing around with some of this stuff. So, what's so cool about Thirdweb? What does that UI look like? What is some of these components? In this playground, you'll see here that we can play with things like looking at how to sign in, account abstraction, our fiat on ramps, custom auth, a whole bunch of stuff, in-app wallets, ecosystem wallets, all that great stuff. And so, one of the key benefits of coming in through this playground. So, I'm going to click on this sign in. Here you can see. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Here you can see not only what the modal might look like, right? And these are out of the box modals, but are totally customizable. You can configure the look and feel. You can get rid of this powered by Thirdweb. You can remove things like, hey, you know what? I want people to sign in with Telegram. Not really, right? Get rid of it. Boom. And this is what that might look like. If you have if you're coming up with code for a little bit, right? You're having issues coming up with a little bit of the code for it. Guess what? We show you the code on what it takes to get that exact modal that you've just built out into your app. And we're going to go over this in our demo here as well a little bit later. So, for example, I mentioned we just added Steam. Boom. Say I want Steam. There it is. Right? It tells you exactly how to code the modal that you're building. And so it's very friendly to new developers, especially people who may not have heard of Thirdweb before and you're still just getting started. And even individuals who are coming over from maybe you've used Thirdweb in the past and you've had our legacy SDK and now you're using our latest one. This is a really, really great tool for you to kind of play around with, see how to build out some of these connect buttons that you're looking at and just get started, right? Again, you don't need an account, you don't need to sign in anywhere. This is a free and public sandbox that you guys can play around with. And I'd love for everyone here to kind of go through this, click around, mess all the buttons that you want. You're not going to break anything, and just have fun playing around with this. So, as a reminder, this is for our Connect modal. This is our out of the box stuff. Again, all of it's customizable. If you don't want to use any of this, you don't want to use any of these UI, perfectly fine. You can use our TypeScript SDK, create your own UI. For example, here, maybe you just want a button. Maybe you just want a simple connect button. So you just can go ahead and click that, and it pops up a modal which you can customize here as well. Get that code for that modal pop up all within this playground, right? So super handy, super useful tool for everyone here. So go back here to our presentation or our slideshow. This is what that connect might look like. Really, as you can see, you can really customize. This was done for one of our Unreal or Unity games called Web3 Warriors. If you haven't heard of it, feel free to go just Google search Web3 Warriors. It's a really great example bringing together things like our gaming SDKs through Unity. It has marketplace contracts. It has token transfers. And best of all, it's just a really beautiful game built around Web3 technology and blockchain. Just really, really cool. And again, we're going to go through this as well in our demo a little bit later, but we have something called Pay. And Thirdweb Pay is one of the only products in the industry that allows for fiat on ramping within your Connect components. So as you can see here, you can actually have your users on ramp into your ecosystem, whether you're using some native tokens on Metis, or even your own custom tokens that you've deployed on Metis, right? You can actually go through Thirdweb Pay to have your users get these funds, and they can do things like they can pay with credit card, they can pay with another wallet and do crypto swaps. Very super handy for you all. And one of the best parts of this is that through Thirdweb Pay, the developer gets a share of the fees that we put on. So for every transaction that goes through Thirdweb Pay, there's a 1% fee added, and you, the developer, get 70% of that fee. So now you've just secured another line of being able to build up runway for your business, right? You can monetize users through Thirdweb Pay and ensure that your business is able to last longer, and you can give you that time to scale up to what you need. So Thirdweb Pay is not only a great benefit for your end user because they have a single place to go and on ramp funds, but also it's a great piece for you all, right? You can now start monetizing users. You can start generating that revenue to help your business scale. Cool. And so contracts, I believe here is where I want to show you. I'm going to skip through contracts for now, only because we're going to go through the demo on it, and I want to show you guys rather than just. I'm going to walk you through the whole deployment process, rather than just kind of show you here on the slides here. But quick overview, two ways. You can either do it through your CLI, or you can deploy contracts through a simple CLI command, or you can do it through our dashboard, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Again, high overview. Our back end is things like engine that we're talking about. This is our scalable engine instance that you can use to manage transactions. If you are, you're just not in the mood to learn a new SDK, great. Guess what? Engine will cut your development time if you're familiar with using API endpoints. So if you want to use API endpoints for your transaction management, perfect. Guess what? You don't have to learn anything new. It is all simple HTTP requests. Um, here's an example of what that might look like, right? So if you've done these kinds of requests before, you're already an engine expert. You have passed, and you're an engine guru because you know how to do API endpoint calls. That is one of the powerful key pieces of engine for developers who are coming on and into the Thirdweb stack, is that guess what? You don't have to learn anything new. You don't have to learn what functions there are. All you need is the endpoints, which we provide a guide for. And this image here is where I think has one of the best descriptions of where engine sits within your tech stack. So engine, think of it as, it's an external server, and this server is where you push read from all of your calls that you want to do towards the blockchain. So you have things like your front ends, right? This was the connect stuff that we talked about. We have your backend management, right? That you set up. Say this is where your user wants to manipulate data. And then you want to send that over to engine to transact on the blockchain, right? So this is kind of the flow on how that looks like. You can read and write through engine to the blockchain. So if you want to read things like in this example, getting a balance for a wallet, you can do so. If you want to write things like transactions, you can do so as well. Again, some of these SDKs, all of these are native. I want to talk to you about how powerful that is. So TypeScript SDKs, React SDK, right? Mobile SDKs through React Native as well. As we know, a lot of the world uses mobile devices, the majority rather. And so it's really important that we have this kind of support. And because it is a native SDK, again, you guys are able to have performant apps on any platform that you choose to build on. And we mean any platform, right? Because with Engine, this means if you're using other languages like maybe Python, if you notice here, we don't have a Python SDK, but through Engine, you can still have native application support through Engine because Python allows for API endpoint calls, right? So that's one of the most powerful things that we can talk about here. So here, backend, we have something like some of our SDK stuff. For example, how do we set that up? Well, we have things like a simple client that we'll go through. We have a third provider to help you navigate data to and from your application. And then we have simple React hooks that you can use as well for things like, hey, maybe you want to use the active account, maybe you want to get the balance of a wallet, right? All of these are listed in our platform and SDKs as well. And one of the beautiful things is that not only are SDKs native, but they are also super simple and easy to use. For example, here our Unity SDK, this image is a screenshot of that game I was talking about earlier, that Web3 Warriors. And in order to set this up in your, for example, Unity project, this client, this Thirdweb manager is all you need. And this means that all you have to do is put in your client ID for your API key, and that's it. You can start setting up things like what chain you want to work on, what wallets you want to support, all within a handy prefab that you don't have to make yourself. We provide a whole suite of prefabs for you, that you guys can use for things like connecting wallets, for this third web manager. You can customize all of these prefabs. You're not locked into any of them. So it's a really great opportunity for you guys to do that. And so now we're going to go over to this tech demo real quick. We're going to build out this NFT mint site for you. I'm gonna walk you through a little bit about, the steps it takes. So one, we're gonna have to deploy our contract first, which I've done for the sake of brevity here. But I'm still gonna walk you through the flow on what that looks like. And then we're gonna, upload NFTs. We're gonna mess with creating our excuse me. We're gonna create our claim conditions. And then of course just build out these buttons, build out what is needed for some of the objects that I've talked about earlier in this site. So before we move on, leave it there. Any questions? Anything anyone has? Any concerns? Anyone wants to talk through? Ellie Aries, I see your comments, man. Honestly, please reach out to us at support. I want to hear what happened. I want to hear your
Yeah.
issue. It's thirdweb.com/support. And if you do that, mention my name, and then we'll actually dive into your account. I would love to look into that for you.
Yeah, we can help you out with this, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people use us. We've have a lot of partnerships with big names like Coinbase and Amoka. We've done a whole bunch of partnerships with things like McFarlane Toys. So yeah, I would love to hear your use case and see what happened there. But okay, moving forward, I talked a little bit about what it takes to start this project. So I'm going to share this tab with you all. This is our dashboard. And so if you're for the first time bringing out any sort of project or deploying any sort of new contract, here's here's where you can see the whole list of popular contracts, of modular contracts that I talked about earlier, and be able to deploy them through a UI interface. So for this project, I'm actually going to do an 1155 token. That's something called our edition drop here. But as you can see, we have support for a whole range of contracts. So we have things like NFT drop, edition drops, right? So 721s, 1155s. If you want to do standard ERC20s that you want to build out on Metis, again, this is all on Metis. This is all available for you guys already. If you want to build marketplaces, if you want to work with account abstraction, which we'll talk about in a little bit here as well, you can do so through this page here. So what does it look like to actually deploy a contract? All you have to do is go to this site here, and I'll put here in the chat as well. Sign in with your account and then follow these steps. So in this instance, again, we're deploying an 1155. I'll go ahead and click on it. And here we can see things like the audit report. We can see what a little blurb about what this contract is for, right? What are some common use cases? You can even go through and look at some of the functions for the write. What functions you can write with, what functions you can read with, some of the code snippets to get started, right? All within this contract page. So once we've said, hey, you know what, this is the contract I want to deploy, we can go ahead and click on deploy now here and fill in some of this metadata. So, for example, if I wanted to call this Metis test, right? We can do things like, and again, this is contract metadata. We can do things like upload an image, a symbol, a description that we want to have on our contract, and then we can set up things like, if again, this is for NFTs. What's the recipient of the primary sales that we're going to get through, right? We want to be able to know this kind of stuff. What about royalties as things are sold on secondary sales? Where do the royalties go? What about platform fees? What if I'm on a third party platform and I want to ensure that I get an additional percentage on top of the sale, right? You can specify that here. You can do things like if you have trusted forwarders for your gas list sponsorship, you can specify those here. And finally, what chain do we want to deploy on here? Because we're talking about Metis here today. We're going to be obviously using the Metis Sepolia testnet. And one amazing thing that you guys can also do is if you go through our chain list, we have a whole directory of chains that we use, and we can actually look at the Metis Sepolia testnet here. You can see that we actually have a faucet that was funded by Metis directly, and you guys can come through this link, which I'll put here in the chat as well. You can come through here, click on this faucet, and get some testnet funds so you can start working and deploying some of these contracts on your own. So really handy thing here as well. I know Metis has some other faucets around in their docs, really great docs as well. They have a faucet. They also have a Telegram instance, I believe. We can go through and look at funds. Um, so really awesome and a lot of opportunities for you guys to be able to get funds so you're not blocked on building. So once you have all of that, you have your funds, you have your chain, you have your contract all set up, you can go ahead and click deploy now. And what you'll see is this little status window. You'll see a contract that is being deployed. It will actually pop up if you logged in with an EOA. It'll actually pop up your, for example, my MetaMask wallet just popped up. I can sign it and confirm that transaction. If you're signing in through a simple email like a in-app wallet, you can go ahead and use that as well. And so here it's deploying the contract that I've just created, the ERC 1155 contract. Remember it's a drop contract, and then we have a concept called the dashboard, which I'll share with you all here. But it's actually going to add this contract to the dashboard as well. This means that you guys don't have to go back and hunt for that contract on the blockchain, right? You can see the contract right on your Thirdweb dashboard. And so once this is done, I'll show you what that dashboard looks like here. Cool. So here we've deployed our contract, we've added it to the dashboard, and now we want to be able to view this contract. We can click that button and it takes us right to this contract that we created, right? Again, it's at 1155, Metis test one that we've looked at. And so, hey, maybe I want to be able to see all my contracts, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click here. And this is a little bit of our dashboard where you can see kind of what is going on with your projects. Go click on contracts, and here you can see all the contracts that I've deployed on my account, all the different networks, all of the different, um, what network are they on? What's the contract? What's the address of the contract? What's the type of the contract? Right, all this information here on the dashboard on your Thirdweb account. And so for today, I've actually already created one called this Metis Dino Drop. So I'm going to share this tab with you all. And so this is what we're going to be working with today, right? Again, same thing. This is our 1155. I've just added an image. I've added a name for it, a more readable name. And what happens once we deploy our contract? Traditionally, we want to start adding things like NFTs to it, right? So how do we do that? If you can see here, I already added two. I'm going to add one more with you all here. I'm going to add this NFT tab here on the left, and we have a couple different options. You can either batch upload your NFTs. If you do this, it is recommended that you are on a stable connection, as well as if you have a very, very large collection, you can break that collection up into pieces and upload in batches instead of all at once. Today, I'm just going to do the single upload. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And then I believe I have the name, I think it's just T-Rex. And then we're gonna upload some media for this. My file system here. Pull that for you real quick. Here we go. So here's that T-Rex, and then we're gonna have a description. I'm just gonna be like the king, right? The T-Rex is the king. Attributes, right? You can do things like type, animal, biome, anything and everything that you want. These are traditionally the properties or the traits that you guys see on NFTs, right? So a lot of NFTs will have things like background color or head type, arms, if they're wearing a jacket, right? Accessories, things like this, all these kinds of attributes. And so here, this one, I'm just gonna be his type is king, right? And we're gonna go ahead and lazy mint this. Lazy minting is when we create all of the metadata for it. We create all of the attributes and link it to an IPFS. But we're not actually minting it to the blockchain just yet. This helps save on gas costs so that you guys can lazy mint these NFTs first before actually deploying them. So here, as you can see, now we have this NFT in our collection. And one thing we have to do in all of these instances is we have to allow our users to mint these tokens. So right now, the way that works is we have a concept called claim conditions. So if we click on some of these NFTs, we'll see claim conditions here, and you'll see that we have a in our claim conditions, we have something called phases. Now, phases are how you set who and when individuals can claim. So, for example, you can say, I want anyone to be able to claim. I want only the public. I want an allow list only owner, which would be the creator of the contract. Um, and you can set some of these for us, for our purposes. We're just going to do the allow list. I mean, the public phase today. I'm going to say, hey, I want to drop unlimited. How much do you want to charge? I'm not going to charge any Metis, how many NFTs can be claimed. An unlimited amount can be claimed here. And notice here, right? Not only can we do the native token, which is Metis, but also any custom ERC20. So if you went through this flow, deployed your own ERC20 on Metis, and you want to use that to fund as the price tag, right? As the currency for your NFT, we can do that here as well. So we're just going to keep it at Metis for now, and then we're going to go ahead and save this phase. Again, a transaction. This is a on-chain transaction, so it will pop up in my MetaMask. I'll accept it, and this will go ahead and save. And there it is, saved the claim phase. So you have to for 1155 because each one is different. You do it for each NFT that you upload. However, if, for example, ERC 721s, you can do um, claim phases for the entire collection on a collection base, which is so. We go back here to our slide here for a little bit, and in the meantime, also work on these claim conditions. So the next part is how do I get started, right? How do I actually start building this? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the Visual Studio that I have, and we'll go ahead and build this out, build out some of these functions and what that might look like, right? So first up, we're going to go through a little bit about what the first step is, right? So first, npx Thirdweb create. If you guys are creating anything new, any new projects, go ahead and use this command. And what it's going to do for you is it's actually going to walk you through how how to build what you want to build, all these kinds of important things, right? So in this instance, we're going to be saying, hey, I want to build this app for through using Thirdweb. So okay, what do you want your project to be called, right? What's the name of it? In this case, I did Dino Drop. What framework do you want to use? Next.js is one of the most popular, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Added benefit that it has free hosting through for sale for certain limits. So if you guys are just building out, want to mess around, test with it, this is a great option for you all. And then it even tells you what to do next, right? It's created this project for me, this Dino Drop that I've made. I'm gonna go ahead and move into it, and then we have our layout on 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 Thirdweb projects, right? Very similar, very as you can see, it should be really familiar to anyone developing with Thirdweb. You have this structure, or even with for cell apps, right? Next.js in general, you have this structure that for React, and it's really great, right? You have things like what's our source, what's our layout file, our Tailwind. If you guys are using it, Tailwind, we use Tailwind by default. So you have that config file there as well. Really great stuff. And then let's talk through a little bit about how to actually start using Thirdweb. So in this instance, we have something called a Thirdweb provider. If you've been building apps, you know that providers are a way to have data transfer through your app. And so we want to make sure that our provider is within it encapsulates our entire application. And for Next.js, the latest versions, this is going to be in your layout file, right? So in layout, it's going to be uh, very similar to what you see on screen. If you guys are using more traditional like index files as your main run for your project, it's probably going to wrap around that as well. And so this is what we're going to build, right? Super simple, super easy. We're going to be able to connect our wallet. We're going to be able to have a difference between EOAs and social logins for an individual. So really, really great and easy stuff here. Let me share what that might look like there instead of this screen. Now I'm going to switch over to my Visual Studio. Boom. So here's my Visual Studio, right? And I might just switch over to share the entire screen for ease of sharing sake. But this is it, right? Like this is kind of what we were looking at earlier. This is what we notice right away is that this is just an empty project. We're not going to show anything. I've done some setup. I've added some background images and some assets that we can use. But for example, hey, real quick, I want to be able to sign in, right? I want my users to be able to sign in. What does that look like? So one of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break these out into different components. So, for example, I'm gonna paste this in here. I've already created this sign-in component. Um, what we're gonna do is, if you notice here, we have clients, right? So clients are how we use our API keys for Thirdweb, and so when you create your project, we actually have this file called client.ts that we generate, and you can put your client ID here. I'm okay with showing my client ID because the client ID is meant to be front facing. It is meant to be through the front end of your apps. In every API key pair, you're going to get a client ID and a secret key. The secret key, you want to make sure that you store it and make sure that it's used for backend use only. So if you're doing transactions on back end, you can use the secret key. However, for anything front facing, you want to use this client ID instead. So, because of that, what we're actually going to be able to do here is we're going to import from that client page our client, and we don't have to actually use this.
I have one quick question. Sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt you.
Oh yeah, go
So,
ahead.
like, how we can get the client ID from the third web? Like, if you can show the like, if
Yeah.
you have like quick steps, you can show it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a reference here. If you guys go through our template builds, you'll go through your account, log into thirdweb.com, then I'll actually walk you through everything you need on how to set up your client ID. And I know we're coming up on time. Just want to make sure we're okay. We're running a little bit over.
All good, all good.
Perfect. So I'm going to share my screen here, client a little bit, right? So um, here you can actually see what the client is, what we talk about, and how to create this API key, right? You can go here, click that create API key. What it's going to do is it's going to send you into your account. And then in this account, you're going to be able to create new projects. And so each client ID is associated with a project. So you can see all these client IDs here. If I want to create a new one, I can add a new project, create this. For example, let's do Metis demo 2, right? Specify what domains we want this client to be able to look and read from. So we can either do everything, we can do only localhost, we can do only domains that you guys want to actually work through as well. And once you have that, so for this one, just I'm gonna have that unrestricted. Yep. And then we're going to see this whole screen here. I don't care that this is showing, right? I'm not going to use this client ID after this or the secret key after this. But again, make sure you've saved your secret key, and this client ID is what you're going to be using within your apps. So that's how you create it. You can go ahead and copy it and move on after
This only
you're
we
done.
need while we are creating like with the terminal, like with the project, not from the UI of the third web website, right? So we just use
Yeah.
client anywhere.
Yep. So as you create your account on thirdweb.com, right? Everyone has to go through and create their account and then make a client ID for an API key. Once you have that API key, then you can go through and do it in Visual Studios. Again, this is only through the UI. You don't do this through the CLI just yet.
Perfect.
Go back here.
People are showing some love to this collab.
Yep, Metis. So that's where we get the client ID. Um, and then so here, right, I want to be able to look at this sign-in component. And if you notice, it's very similar to what I showed earlier on the playground, right? If you remember, we had these options. We can customize what kind of auth methods we want. So for example, here, not only do I have Steam, but let's say I want like what do we have not here? GitHub is a good one, right? We can add that there. And then how do we define what chain we're working on? So for these kinds of chains, especially with Metis, what we can do is if a chain is supported in our chain list directory, right? Thirdweb.com/chainlist, what we can do is we can actually say, okay, I want the chain that I'm working on, I want to define it by using this function, define chain. And then I put in the chain ID. I think this one is for the test net specifically. And that's it, right? So you can now say, for example, here, instead of working on Sepolia, now what I want to do is I actually want to work on the chain that I've defined, right? Um, and so this is a really easy way for you guys to define what kind of chains you're working with or what kind of instances that you want to be running with, right? So, for example, here, if I were to run this, what this does is here is our connect button component, and this component is what will actually generate the button that says, "Hey, I want my user to be able to log in." Right? This is our connect button, um, and so here we've created this sign in component, and now we actually just need to get it over into our area. So if we were to do that, do some formatting here, and then let me go ahead and open localhost for you all. You'll be able to see exactly while that loads up. Going a little bit to how this looks. Oh, that was actually pretty fast. Going a little bit into how this works. So again, for things like social logins, we're going to be defining our in-app wallets. For if you just want straight EOAs, like how we have defined here, right? You've noticed here that we're not defining any special wallets. This is out of the box. Anything that our our app is using. So let me go ahead and share this. Here's the app itself, right? That we're starting to build and work with. If you notice here, if you're not on the correct network, we'll actually render a switch network for you. So I'll go ahead and click that. It'll pop up on my connected wallet how to switch over to the correct one. And so I'm actually going to disconnect so you can see it from the beginning. We've actually have a connect button from that one line of code, right? Connect button, client, chain. That's it. And we have all of these predetermined things. We have things that we can connect with, for example, wallets, MetaMask, all that kind of stuff. And then for social logins, it's the exact same piece of code, except now what we're doing is we're having our, I think, share my entire screen here. And just make sure nothing is going to pop up here, because I think it's going to be a little bit easier for you. Okay, cool. So now you can see this. And so here we have our connect button, right? So this one is now we want to add social logins. Now we want to be able to add things that we define here, right? We want to be able to add things like email, Steam, GitHub, all of this cool stuff. So if I were to save this file, and the way we did that was it's the same one line, but all we did was add this list of wallets that we want to collect. And then I even have a little customization, right? So instead of saying connect, I wanted to say social login instead. And so if as we run through this, you can see here that it actually made that button for me. You know, formatting is a little off, but that's okay. If I were to click on social login here, you can see that we actually have our GitHub that we've just added into that list. We have our Steam accounts, and you can see how different it is from this out of the box, right? So, as you've noticed, this is how easy and how quick it is to start making connect buttons and developing through all this kind of stuff, which is really, really great. I'm actually going to move on forward here and show you something called this is the bigger project out of it, right? So now what if we want to do things like how do we do things like, well, I want to be able to mint, right? I want to be able to mint this NFT. We have this thing called mint area, which is what I've defined. And so what this does is one, we're going to be able to claim our NFTs and we're going to be able to go through them from our from our contract, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in this mint area as well into my project here, right? So this is our Metis one, and we're gonna go ahead and bring in this mint area. I'm gonna actually just copy and paste so that we have a beautiful formatting here, right there. Right, so we've done the signing components. Now we want to start working with mint area, and how do we start actually working on transacting on the blockchain through the SDK? So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it mint area. I'm going to call it mint area here. Where do I want to put it? Let's go ahead and close that. We're done. And so we have this mint area, and this mint area is going to, as you can see, we have quite a few errors to go through, right? To start working with. So this is great. I love leaving it like this because it lets me kind of walk you through everything. So one, we need to start defining things like um, use states are going to be any standard project, but we want to start defining things like how do we work with our contract? What are the contracts that we want to work with, right? And to do that, we can do things like this get contract function. It's a under the hood. What it does is it allows us to interact with any sort of contract that you guys create through Thirdweb or even outside of Thirdweb. If you have a contract that you didn't deploy through Thirdweb, guess what? That's okay. We can still help you work with it in our SDK, right? You don't have to have your contracts deployed through Thirdweb in order to utilize our SDKs to act on it. You don't, which is very, very powerful. So if you guys have already created your contracts, guess what? You can still use them through our SDKs and extensions as well. So
That's amazing and really like very helpful.
yeah, yeah, we see a lot of people actually, really they've already built out their project, right? And so if they want to
Yeah,
start using Thirdweb, it doesn't make sense to say, oh, you know what, you have to reload your contract. You have to start
yeah,
migrating all your users, right?
yeah.
That's not the case. You can keep using your existing contracts even with Thirdweb. So here, what I'm going to do, what I like to do is let Visual Studio Code handle all my imports. For example, get contract is a function on Thirdweb. So we're going to go ahead and import that on Thirdweb. And this chain, right? So here we have Sepolio, but no, we don't want to work with Sepolio, right? We are on Metis today. We want to work with Metis. And if you remember, to define a Metis chain, we just do define chain and then the chain ID of that chain. So here I'm actually going to put in the new chain that we're working with. And then what is the address of the contract that we want to interact with, right? What is that address? If we look at the contract, the dyno drop that we've created here, you can see that we have our address right here. So we can actually copy that address. And I'm going to replace it here in our code. Now, what this has done is this has allowed us to get a instance of our contract from the Metis network. Now, as we go through and we want to claim it, right? I've actually created this method here, traditional claim. And what this is going to do is it's going to pick a number between 0 and 3 or 0 and 2 rather. Um, and it's going to randomly claim one of the NFTs that we have created. Remember, we have that pterodactyl, the triceratops, and then the T-Rex dynos that we've created here, right? Um, and so, what does that traditional claim look like? I'm actually going to go ahead and comment out some of these things so we can run it and you can see what that might look like. So first off, we have components for this. We have things like claim button, and this claim button is going to abstract away a lot of the transaction info that you need to put in here. So for example, if you are used to building transactions on blockchain, you know you need to do things like what's the value that you're sending, what's the raw data you're sending, what's you have all these different kind of components to building out a transaction. Through this component that Thirdweb provides, this claim button component, all of that's abstracted away. So we're gonna actually, again, update that import. We're gonna bring in the chain that we are working with here. And then again, what is the contract that we're working with, right? So we're gonna do that. And then specify a little bit about what type of contract it is, right? So we have 1155 in this instance, but if it's a 721 that works, if it's an ERC20, you can do that here as well. How many do we want to be able to claim once a user clicks this button? And then of course, what's the token ID that the button will be able to that the button will reference for the user. So for example, here, remember I am doing a simple, randomization function here for the user. So that's going to be very helpful as well. And then I believe that's it. We just need to be able to put this button into our into our render area, right? So which I believe we already have in our mint area. Perfect, which we have here. Cool. This sign out component, let me do that. And then again, more functions here from Thirdweb. So for example, we have things like, hey, I want to be able to disconnect my wallet. And then an important one here is use active wallet. What this is going to do is for the currently connected user, their wallet, this allows you to get their wallet. So this means that you can get their account address. This means you can get things like token information, balance information from their wallet. And then we're actually going to go ahead and remove or comment out some of these here, as well as this button and this display. There we go. So now if we save that, we should be able to see a new, well, this loads. We're going to go ahead and connect our wallet here. And so when our wallet's connected, we should be able to see a new button that pops up here. Let me see if it works. If not, live coding sessions fraught with errors. We're still loading. We're still loading. There we go. So I've done a little bit of formatting, right? We've seen this kind of, again, this is all formatting that I've done on the back end, nothing to do with the code. But now we have this traditional claim button. This is the button that we've just set up. This is the button where we've talked about our claim button component. So if I were to click this, what it does is it will actually pop up MetaMask, which you can now see here, and it'll perform a transaction like, hey, you're trying to claim. What do you want to allow this? Again, this is for EOAs, for in-app wallets. If you have a user sign in with in-app wallets, they won't see this, right? There's no pop-up for them to sign. These are all signed by the user's actions themselves, not through a pop-up window. So we'll go ahead and confirm it, and then that shows that works, right? So if I were to go into my contract now, that I'm gonna pull up here for you all. I have the right one. There we go. There we go. Whoop. So when I look into this contract, everything was 0, but now since I've claimed, we see that we actually have a supply of 1 on this token ID. So it randomly went through, picked a number, and it gave me token ID 0. And if I were to click on it, I believe I can actually, see what the token URI is, what the media is, all of that kind of stuff, which is great, right? This is showing that it's working, which is awesome. Now, one of the additional things we want to be able to do with this is, things like pay, things like fiat on ramps. Um, so how does that work, right? It's super easy. Again, we're gonna go into our mint area um, component that we were building out, and then if you remember, I actually just commented out this pay one. We're gonna go ahead and uncomment that, and we're gonna go ahead and work with this. So for example, with pay, a little bit of special case, right? We have pay for testnets available. However, there really isn't something like testnet currencies or testnet fiat funds, right? And what I mean by that is you can't have testnet USD, right? Something like that is a little different. So what I actually did is I actually put this up on Polygon, so that way I can show you what this looks like without having to um, without any of this weirdness, right? So with pay, right, we want to be able to test with testnets. You can, but in order for you to go through the full flow, we want to be able to be able to show you. So I made this on Polygon instead of the Metis network here. So we have that now. We want to be able to claim with pay. And to do that, we've actually commented it out here, this component, right? Remember, we're just building components. If you're familiar with React, all of this should be super similar for you. If not, 5 minutes on YouTube and you guys will be React masters, I promise.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and do that. It looks like there's an error somewhere. And find it here in my divs. If it pops up here for me.
We are almost 1 hour. We can still continue for a few minutes.
Yeah. Here's what I'll do. We have the code already for it, which is great, right? Um, and let me show you one more thing, right? So we've set up the pay stuff, and then I want to show you what it might look like to look at like, hey, I've claimed my NFTs, but now I want to see them, right? So what does that look like? So here, super simple. This is the button that I'm going to create. It's going to call a function called view owned here. And so what view owned is going to do have here is it's going to call again an extension on Thirdweb called get owned NFTs. Traditionally, reading from the blockchain can be very difficult, but remember, we've already looked at that contract. We've already passed in that information. So this we're going to do for the 1155 because that's the kind of contract we've created here. It moved me up, which I didn't want, but that's okay. So we have this 1155 and we're going to pass in that contract. Remember, we actually created that contract up here already, the reference to that contract. And we're going to pass in that contract that we want. We're going to say, hey, how many NFTs do I want to see? What's the address of the account for these NFTs that I want to see here? So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. And that's it. It's as simple as that. You've used Thirdweb to start interacting and reading on the blockchain. And so, how do we display it here? This is again just really simple React stuff here. And then we actually have a media render with Thirdweb that you guys can use to display these NFTs. So, really simple flow and process here. We're going to go ahead and have all of that available now. And so, final demo on what we just created here is this is what it looks like, right? So, again, we've uploaded our pay with our component and we've uploaded the ability to view our dyno. If I were to click view our dyno, we should be able to see the pterodactyl that we had minted with our traditional claim. And so if a user comes in and says, hey, I want to make with pay, right? I want to claim with pay. Not only can you do it with any of your regular ones, but you can do it with pay directly. And remember, I set it up with Polygon for test purposes here for the demo. You guys can actually set it up on Metis. We have pay available on Metis mainnet for you all. And so what it's going to do is it's going to show up and say, hey, um, this is what that looks. This is what that looks like. You can go through it. If I were to say, for example, not have enough funds for this, let me actually sign out, and I'm going to connect a different wallet for you all. So let's just do this wallet account 3 here. Sure that I connected. disconnect, connect it up here, MetaMask. Claim with pay. And so here, if you notice, I don't have any funds in this account. So it actually popped up a modal for the user and says, hey, you know what? This is the price of the NFT. How do you want to pay? They can choose their payment method. Either they can switch to another wallet. For example, with my initial wallet account that had funds, I can use that, or I can use a credit card, and I can use that here. In some instances, right, depending on the provider that you guys go through, you might have certain minimums that you have to meet. No problem. The user can just click on
Wait,
set minimum.
I
Go
have
ahead.
one question.
Yes.
So, like, we can pay the gas with,
Mhm.
we can mint the NFT basically with the credit card as well, right? That's what you meant
Yes.
by this.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Gas fees are
Really
totally
helpful. Yeah.
separate, right? You can sponsor gas fees through account abstraction, simple one line of code, go through the playground, you can see it. And this is if I'm charging for an NFT, the user can now use their credit card to go through this process and mint it. Super simple, super, again, if you notice, I didn't pop up any other windows. I didn't
Yeah.
send my user anywhere. I am still within my app. So I can do that and have my user still within my ecosystem, still on ramps, still interact with what I need through Thirdweb and Metis. Yeah, and so if you hear click view dinos, right? This account doesn't have any dinos, so that's why we don't see anything. But yeah, that's the basics. That is how you can get up and running with Thirdweb. And it took us what, maybe 30 minutes to build out this page, right? With Thirdweb, we didn't have to do anything too complicated or too crazy. Um, you guys can get up and running on Metis, build out your
Yeah.
NFT collections, build out your apps really, really quickly. And again, this isn't even showing some of the other stuff like ecosystem wallets or engine, right? This is all is just kind of the most common stuff that we see people use Thirdweb for. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. That's my demo, my code demo. Any questions? Anything wants to?
Yeah. There's the open floor for the questions. So, guys, feel free to drop your any questions related to Thirdweb, Metis, for any support, for the Metis support or the Thirdweb support. You can drop the comments or a text on our Telegram group. Awesome. We are having like almost 820 people right now watching this workshop. So it's really helpful. Like it was amazing. And yeah, the SDK that the Thirdweb provides, apart from the contract deployment from the UI side, the SDK that the last we saw, that the user can pay with the credit card as well. That is really helpful. Like even like like Web 2 users who are not familiar with the Web 3 and who don't want to, install MetaMask and all the stuff, they can. This would be really helpful for the applications they are having, like the audience from the Web 2. Amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here, what I'm actually doing is I'm just saying, hey, if I want to add account abstraction, um, or gasless funds, this is all I really need. Um, and let me go through the playground here for that syntax. I always get confused whether it's sponsor gas or gasless. Here we go. Latest one is sponsor
This is
gas.
for the gasless transaction, right? So
Yes,
we just yeah set this as a true, and we it's as simple as that. Like we are just setting it true, and we are going to have the, like, Thirdweb basically is doing all of our stuff in the backend.
exactly. So you don't have to create any factory accounts. You can if you want. Um, But this is it. If you specify just like this, single line, one line of code it can be. I just for readership purposes split it out. But this uses our factory accounts. This uses our contract, and through this, you've now sponsoring gas on behalf of your user, and that's all it takes. That's it.
Yeah.
Literally, you're good to go.
Okay. So we are almost 10 minutes up. So thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone who has joined this workshop. And okay, 860 people. People are still joining. That's amazing and cool that they are still joining.
Yeah,
Amazing. Thank you guys.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your
Cool.
love. Anyway, this is going to be on the YouTube of the Metis channel. So if you want to check it out, we are not going to upload it right away, but because we are having some issues with the YouTube right now, but we are going to upload this workshop to the workshop playlist on the Metis. So you can check it out later. And for any support from the Metis and Thirdweb, you can reach out to us definitely. Thank you
Cool.
so much. Bye bye. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. Bye.